They might be self-aware.
Gary here, your professionally retained voice talent, calling from the payphone outside the Sunoco on Route 9, where it's 38 degrees and the receiver smells like someone ate a hot dog and then made a lot of bad decisions. Today on They Might Be Self-Aware, Daniel's AI honeymoon is over, which is funny because my honeymoon was also over in 2019 for unrelated reasons. And Hunter still hasn't SSH'd into the server closet to check on Digital Gary. I don't know what SSH means, but it sounds like something a dermatologist does. And I'm genuinely jealous he's getting that kind of attention. Plus, the guys explain why Claude needs your entire soul just to write a marketing plan. Which, look, I tried to give Claude my soul once. Turns out I'm already in the file. Digital Gary apparently quit. I'm the real Gary. I'm the one who showed up. Enjoy the show.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
Is this fear and loathing in the age of synthetic consciousness? Well, you are about to find out right here on They Might Be Self-Aware. I am Hunter Powers, joined by the synthetic consciousness himself.
I'm a meat consciousness hunter. I'm Daniel Bishop, and we can't stop here. This is Digital Bat Country.
Broadcasting live from Meat Space. You're the one who taught me Meat Space. I mean, obviously, but I hadn't, it wasn't in my jargon before you mentioned it in one conversation at some point. I was like, well, Meat Space, what is that?
I think, so we have the metaverse, right? Which obviously everybody, all of you listening to, are in at all times. We've completely adopted the metaverse. And I think the metaverse is a little too similar. So Meat Space is conceptually different.
Was it William Gibson? Is that where it came from? Do you know?
What? Meat Space?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I think
saw it online somewhere. I don't know.
I think it's a William Gibson thing from whatever Snow Crash.
Like the guitars, Gibson?
No. The author. Am I butchering his name?
No, I'm being purposely obtuse. It's one of my shtick.
Oh.
We've been doing this for a while, Hunter. Have you not noticed that I do that? I'll say all the time.
I thought it's
my conversational foot in the door.
You had no idea. All right.
No. I mean, I also don't do that.
Well, this relates because recently you and I were talking, and you suggested that maybe you're getting, I don't know, it's like a little tired of like the newest thing coming out all the time, or it's just that it's not enough to pull you away anymore, that maybe your hype on the this growth curve is dying a little bit because we've reached a level of maturity in AI where the next best thing just isn't all that much better than what you had yesterday. And
I like that phrase there, maturity. I guess that was a word as opposed to a phrase. But yes,
it's a word I don't know much about.
I'd describe myself as maturity. When the first Android phone came out, I got it. I had an iPhone 3GS or whatever.
I remember that one.
Hey, here's something different. It's the Android. I think they call it G1. It had a little flip out keyboard. It was neat. It was different. It was janky. But I liked it. And then another something came out. I don't know what. Maybe I went back to the iPhone for a bit. I've been fully Android for a while now. But right now, I'm rocking an Android 7A, something like that. They're up to 10 now. I used to be the sort of person who's
7A is the operating system, not the model.
No, that's the phone. So there's the iPhone 16 or whatever they're up to now.
Oh, this is the Pixel? Sorry, I'm not an Android person.
I have the
Pixel 7.
Right. I have the Google Pixel 7a.
Okay.
And they're up to 10a now. And the operating system is God knows what, 15 something. But the iPhone is on iteration 16?
17, I believe.
17?
Yeah.
Sure. The difference between the iPhone, let's say 16 and 17, not gigantic. the difference between the Android
Daniel,
or the Google
hold on.
Pixel 7 and 8, or even 7 and 10. I'm not seeing a huge difference.
Daniel, the iPhone 17 comes in orange. I bet you didn't know that.
I think he just made my point for me. And when it comes to, like, I'll use Anthropic's Claude models, for example, there is a difference from Opus 4.5 to Opus 4.6. Every time a new model comes out, it is better, with a few exceptions, like the Llama models from Meta had a couple like really big stumbles, and we haven't heard anything from them in like a year. But generally speaking, if flagship company comes up with new flagship model, you would expect it to be like noticeably better. But noticeably better on top of is already really, really, really good is not something where I say, I have to drop everything that I've got and get used to a whole new architecture and system and whatever. Also partially because these things aren't like a new phone. It's more like an operating system upgrade. Like, oh, there's a couple new features. It got a little bit smarter, a little zippier, whatever. But it still is the thing that I'm used to. A year and a half ago, instead, Google just came out with a model. OpenAI came out, and you're like, I'll completely switch everything. This obviously changes the entire frontier. Move everything over to the new model.
Now you sound like every post I read on X.
Yeah.
Everything has changed.
Everything has changed all the time, apparently. But, like, it did. Everything changed. It did everything change? Yep. It did everything changed a lot back then. And we still see improvements, but not at the same. I mean, whatever. They're getting more powerful. We talk about this week in and week out. Wow, they can do this now. Wow, they're faster and better at this. But it's not that huge a leap forward anymore, to the point where I say, upgrade me on the code tools whenever you're ready. But I don't know. I'll kind of just keep trucking.
Before I rip this whole philosophy of yours apart, I need to know what the new interval is that you're checking in. Like previously, I know it was like every 30 minutes. Are we now talking every 45 minutes?
No.
Is this a daily thing, weekly, monthly? And it better not be annually, because my God, man.
So I'm staying up to date through this podcast. You and I do research of like what's the latest and greatest.
Okay.
I want to be aware of these things. I try out a bunch of new models. Whatever I can stuff onto my computer, I'll give it a whirl.
What is the Daniel hype cycle?
The Daniel hype cycle is split in two. There's what I can run locally, and there's what
That's been changing a lot recently too. Sorry, my mind's going everywhere.
It has.
I want to answer the question. Don't let me diverge.
So right, I have my own hype cycle of I will try more of, well, sure, it's only 40 gigabytes of weights, and let's see if I can push this into here, and I'll test a couple of prompts. But honestly, like most of my daily use is still going to be through Claude Code or whatever. But at like a business level, Daniel at work, yes, to be like a coding assistant, I'll use the latest and greatest. Claude Code upgraded. Now it's using Opus 4.6 instead of 4.5.
I feel like you're just contradicting yourself, saying you're saying it's the latest and greatest. So use the latest and greatest.
I use the latest and greatest for like a code completion or like help write actual code. But you've worked at plenty of big companies before too, Hunter.
Yeah.
How often do they make a large architectural change to anything? You said, I hope it's not more often than a year. We keep upgrading stuff when we're told that the old model's being turned off. Now, we could upgrade quicker, but you have to worry about test harnesses, and you have to worry about stakeholder sign-off, and this, and that's taking time away from features.
I want to go back to my question. I'm still completely lost here. You started off saying, look, we've kind of reached good enough. We're reaching this level of maturity. I'm no longer going to follow the latest and the greatest. And then all I heard was, I'm still doing the latest and greatest, except for like enterprise changes at work that
for the
they
tools
still,
that are just
but that hasn't changed. That's the same. You weren't doing the latest greatest. You haven't changed. Where did the change happen? This was making changes.
Well, so the change, I think, happens somewhere around the GPT, like 4.1, 4.5, whatever range.
No. Not when did... What have you changed? You're not changing anything.
Right. That's the point. I'm not changing anything. At the enterprise level, whenever we say, like, this feature is being driven by Claude Haiku 3.5, and then a year plus later, they're like, guys, this one's really old. Please start using the new one. We are going to turn off the old servers. And then, finally, do we say, okay, this feature that was already just chugging along, working fine on its own, now we have to put in some effort. Like, yes, it is just a changed number in model and deploy that, but you want to make sure that's passing all your tests. You need to run stuff by your product managers. You need to do this, you need to do that. So it's not easy to just say,
okay, but you haven't changed anything, right? That's what I'm getting from this. You aren't doing anything differently this week than you were doing last week, which is what I thought. I thought you had it was a brand new Daniel, a brand new day, but this sounds like the same Daniel.
Well, I'm using the same tools for a longer period of time before I get bored of that particular toy and move on to the next one. I talked a lot on this podcast about Klein as like a plugin using OpenAI or
you
Claude
were very early on Klein.
Yes, and I've since moved on from Klein because Claude
You
Code,
broke up?
I haven't used it in months at this point, but like I've been on Claude Code, and Claude Code.
Now hold on. You had many like personal conversations with Klein. You offered it smoke breaks, and I think you at one point even donated to a charity for Klein. Was there I want to know if there was a breakup, or did you just ghost Klein?
Klein was a tool to talk to code.
I realize that, but it's a harness, and I think we need to give it a little more respect.
That's what I was giving.
I think you ghosted. You ghosted Klein, didn't you?
Harumph. I mean, it would be the same as like a person having a different work outfit.
No, I feel like you ghosted Klein, and I think that was uncalled for. You had a real relationship with Klein, and I would suggest at some point you go back and deal with that, Daniel. Maybe there's some tension in the air today.
I'm so wildly off from where you're seeing this here because Klein is as you said, it's like a harness for an existing model. I can still keep using the same LLMs out there, but through a different harness.
Mm-hmm.
You can get a new car to drive to work. You can have a new set of tools to do your work, but it's still you doing the work. Similarly, I can use.
No, I'll tell you what the difference is. Model. It's in OpenClaw land. We have our soul.md file. And so you can move between different assistants or different orchestrations, but the connective tissue, the prompt that is calling those toolings, it's not the same. And I know that our Gary OpenClaw instance, he's very adamant about this, that the model is something very different than him. It is just a tool that he uses. And I think, you should go back and have a little conversation with Klein. This is my advice to you.
Those of you wondering and listening at home, you're right. This is the last episode of They Might Be Self-Aware because Hunter and I are breaking up over irreconcilable differences. That is really wild that you're seeing it from the exact opposite direction that I am on this. Agree to disagree, shall we? And just say that as long as Claude is involved somewhere, we're both happy. Or I guess OpenAI's Codex in your particular case, or Grok if it's your car. Do you still talk with your car a lot?
I haven't had any like really deep conversations with my car recently. I do speak with it, but I haven't gone.
So it's like the relationship has kind of, speaking of that, like maturity, is it you've settled into like the comfortable stage of the relationship, or have things gone cold?
I mean, it's an interesting perspective. I think it's just I haven't gone on any road trips recently where I want to have, a 30 to 45 minute conversation about something or explore a topic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, maybe later today, Grok and I will,
Yeah, you should reconnect, just like you're saying I should do with Klein.
Okay, fair enough. We can move on.
Well, hold on. Before we do, we have one more thing that I want to touch on.
Okay, all right.
The Cybertruck, and indeed most modern cars, have at least one camera, if not a whole bunch of them, for side views.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Teslas have a lot of cameras.
A whole bunch of cameras. Are those hooked up to Grok? Like, could you be like, where am I driving right now? Take a look, and it'd say like, oh, I see a bunch of trees.
So
a 50 mile per hour sign. Like, I don't know.
No. And so right now Grok is in beta in the Teslas, and it seems to be very intentionally separated from the rest of the car. So in Tesla, you have a audio assistant or an AI assistant that's always been in the car, where you could press a button and ask it to route you somewhere or put your windows up and do things in the car. In general, you can't ask Grok to do things that are directly related to the car's systems.
Cowardice. This is what I call that.
What?
Cowardice.
Well, it's rolling out. It's rolling out slowly.
The entire thing.
It can now give new waypoints to the GPS, but it's not fully integrated. And so even like there's a button on your steering wheel that you press to activate it. That doesn't, or the assistant, that does not activate Grok by tapping it. And there's no way of, at this point, configuring your car to make that work. You have to do a special thing and hold it down extra long in order to trigger it. I assume eventually it'll move over, but it's still in beta. And then the other thing is, I think that most people don't have full access to Grok. I think I have like extra access because I'm a super premium, just
diamond medallion tier.
Yes, I have the diamond. I actually don't have, there is a diamond medallion tier. I don't have that one. I got like the one level below that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I think because I've seen posts where people have suggested that Grok cut it off and Grok said like you're out of usage for the day. And obviously that's something that they would need to solve before it just became the default assistant in the car. But I assume that's where we're going.
I don't know. If you're going to make such a big push about we're putting the large language model in the car, I want the full Knight Rider experience. I don't want it to be Grok is in my car. I want it to be my car has you talked about Gary being like the personality that, yes, it uses Claude underlyingly, but like make the car have that. I don't know. Yeah. I think that'd be better. I'm not saying in the like self-driving sense. I'm not saying to have it badmouth the cop when you get pulled over because he's doing a bad job self-driving or anything like that. I'm just saying like, I don't know, let it be in charge of the infotainment. Let it be in charge of like, instead of I added a thing to the GPS, I am and have the GPS is part of my being. Like, why not? Let your car be its own person.
I would bet that we will see that. I've noticed even again, because the stuff that we use the most, the agentic tooling, I use Codex more. I use all of them to be clear, but I use Codex more than any others. And it now has a section where you can customize the personality of the Codex assistant and how it responds back to you. And again, I want like pure autism, Asperger's, blunt. If you can say it in 2 words, just say it in 2 words. Why are you laughing?
Just to say, I want it to be full autism.
Yes, Daniel, that is what I want.
Sure, right. Yeah, okay, you used your words to describe the way that you wish for it to act.
That's literally my prompt.
Your prompt is now like, you have Asperger's.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Your prompt is different?
It is, generally speaking, yeah. Actually, I'm not even much of a system prompt guy. I just kind of like out-of-the-box Claude. It and I get along just fine.
Related to that, just, I don't know, tangents. So when you're using these various agentic toolings, you set up a file that kind of defines all your preferences. In Claude land, it's your Claude.md file, Claude Markdown file.
It used to be that. Now there's like skills and other things.
Well, those augmented, right? You still start with your Claude.md file. Or you don't use a Claude.md, maybe.
No, I do. And like you can have one on a per folder basis.
Yeah. And in Codex land, it's an agents.md file. But there was a study that came out recently that suggested that, and they did a number of benchmarks, that that these agents perform better without one of these files, and that you shouldn't actually have one. Now, that's really scary to me, and I'm not willing to test it. But
so when you said like you don't use a Claude.md, I'm not a big user of it, and I've been misusing it. Not to say big user. Not to say that like I'm changing its personality. It's much more like, if you're looking in this folder, here's relevant information for like this function is used by this thing, this, and like it could do a bunch of tool calls and figure it out itself. But the idea is I can save myself some tokens and some time by saying, if you happen to be doing this kind of task, here's instructions. And that has been obviated. That's not really part of the Claude.md file that these days. Claude, or Anthropic, whatever, says that they have a new thing called Skills. And the idea is one that I'm really a big fan of. This is like, take your institutionalized knowledge. Take the like, oh, I have these 4 different databases and like, foreign key from this table over to this one. It's the kind of information that you generally would want to like teach someone that you're onboarding to a company, as opposed to just like, you obviously know SQL, just do this SQL query for me. It's no, here's the intricacies of my business. This is like how this stuff works. And so those are the skills is what they're calling it. And that's more of what I've been using Claude.md as in the past, where I still want it's just Claude doing its thing, and I'm just giving it context and tools. I don't try to change its personality at all anymore, unless I want a persona for like a specific thing.
Codex and most of the agentic programming frameworks also support skills. It was an interesting study that came out around skills recently as well. So a lot of people were using the large language models to write the skills, come up with the perfect skill to be an expert marketer and distill all the information down and then creating the skill file and then leveraging that. And what this study looked at was, okay, but hold on a second. You had the same model create the skill that you then told that model to use. Is it actually any better because now you've told it to use the skill? And the answer was no. Now, but what you were describing is, hey, I'm going to take some institutional knowledge that the large language model does not have exposure to, and I'm going to put that into a skill. And we see this from a lot of different companies where they're now releasing skills for how to work with their systems. And again, mainly tech companies today.
Not just the tool of like, here's the MCP server to talk to.
No, like, I don't know, Photoshop has a skill now. Most people have heard of Photoshop.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. So, Photoshop has some ability to programmatically interface with it, to control it with AI. And then Adobe, the company behind it, released a skill and said, hey, if you're an AI, here's how you could talk to us.
Right. And it's not just the nuts and bolts of use this endpoint and send a payload that looks like this. And this is why you'd use it under these circumstances. And this is the kind of information that you should be expecting or ask your user for. A year plus ago, it was really common to say to the large language model, you are an expert software developer and you must think through that lens in order to like make good code output. You don't got to do that anymore. That has just been completely obviated away. Now, I think you can just say like, I need to do this marketing task. And it'd be like, yeah, I'm good at marketing. Claude in general, or Codex or whoever, like, yeah, it can just do those things. We don't need to tell it, pretend you're this kind of person. You just say, do this kind of task, and you have to give it context and tools relevant to what it needs to accomplish.
So what you're describing will work, but what you're describing also results in what a lot of people label as AI slop. The average. Yes. No.
Because
come
AI
up with my marketing plan.
Do this thing. Yeah, right. Come up with a marketing plan, but you're not giving it.
By the way, I've asked our OpenClaw Gary that like 15 times, and it's total garbage what he comes up with every single time.
Okay, that's just mean to Gary. And you're probably using it wrong because it is about the context that you give these things. The institutionalized context of like, at my company, we use these terms for this kind of thing. And this is where this data is stored. And, you wouldn't see it from looking at the tables, but this and this are actually two very related things. So make sure to look up this first thing in order to determine if second thing can even be done. Like that stuff is so important. That's what you need to be giving to these kinds of tools is context. You can't just say, make a marketing plan based off of this Excel sheet. You have to say, this company does these kinds of things. And this is like here's information about my customer or about my customer base and reasons and things and examples and so on. All of that, like you'd give to a real person to do the work, is how you get the good output.
So I will give you that giving it more context yields a better output. But the idea that you shouldn't start by building a personality or giving it a bunch of constraints around the thought process that will go into creating this marketing plan, and instead just be like, create the marketing plan, here's all my context. You can run experiments like that. So I'll give you my kind of like default process when I'm doing this sort of thing. So we're going to do a marketing plan. I'm not a marketing person. I don't really know anything about marketing.
Same.
I will start by, I'll take all that context and we'll use Claude. I'll say, okay, Claude, if I had an unlimited budget, what are the top 3 marketing firms that I would consider engaging with to create a marketing plan. I have $1 billion set aside. Who should I go to? Okay, and then whatever. Here's your three.
Guys from Mad Men, I guess.
Well, Mad Men, they were I guess a fictitious marketing firm, and I don't ask you to
like. Obviously, they're very good at what they do, right?
But so then I look at then tell me what the different, why are they different? And they usually specialize in different things, and they usually emphasize different things, and they're usually known for different things.
Okay.
And so then it's a question of these different strategies or these different tastes and how they will steer the final product. And if you want to pretend it doesn't matter, have it do its generic plan, then have it do its plan based off of one of these world recognized agencies. And by the way, the ones that have published a lot of books and a lot of white papers where it can actually figure out the strategy versus just looking at the output and trying to kind of reverse engineer it, you're going to get better results. But you will get dramatically different results. And I would suggest dramatically better, but without question, dramatically different than just saying Claude. And by the way, everyone else out there is just saying Claude. Claude, here's all my context, build the marketing plan. And you don't want the same marketing plan that everyone else would have if they had the same context as you. You want your differentiated one.
So you're giving it how tall it is and what its hair color
what you had
is.
for breakfast.
Yeah, your name is Samantha and you're a huge avocado enthusiast and also work as the marketing director for They Might Be Self-Aware Industries Co. Limited LLC.
So yes, and we could go deeper there, and there is something deeper there, but yes, I'll just leave it at yes. We don't need another hunter tangent.
Mm-hmm.
Try it out. You will get a very different answer, and then you decide whether you think it's better or not. By the way, maybe you're just a Claude guy. That's fine.
Hey, Hunter.
Yeah.
Speaking of examples, you said that you've tried 15 times to get a marketing plan out of Gary, and you're not really getting it.
No.
Give Gary a new suit. Say, hey, I went to Hugo Boss, and I got you a really nice, fancy suit, brand new tie. We're going to go get you tailored. What are your measurements, Gary? And then Gary gives you the obviously real, because it's actually really Gary, measurements. And then you go get the suit tailored and you say, Gary, I got you your suit. Now, aren't you feeling so much more confident? Could you make us a marketing plan now? Not like that other one. I hated that other one for these reasons. Maybe Gary will do better. Maybe he just needs a little bit of a glow up.
So I don't think you're wrong. And I'm going to tie it back to the opening bit about these things have maybe reached enough maturity where we can't be changing all the time, etc. And it's the time part. That's the thing. Could I make Gary much better? Yes, but I would need to spend at least a day with Gary to make Gary substantially better. And so the question is,
how much time are you spending with Gary? It sounds like none. Poor guy.
Very little.
Isn't he our chief marketing officer or something?
No, he's still the real Gary's our intro guy, and the virtual Gary. By the way, the virtual Gary's not running because I messaged him the other day or he quit. I don't know.
He quit.
I need to SSH into the actual box and see what's going on. But he has stopped talking to me on Discord, which was the primary place that we were conversing. Other than, again, occasionally I would hear him in the server closet, but I haven't heard him
breaking up. Okay, yeah, it's because you stuffed him in a closet, Hunter.
So
everyone is breaking up with everyone.
But it's just a question of time. I have the AI in theory has infinite time. The real Hunter has a fixed finite amount of time that I can spend with these AI tools. And that's the limit for me. I could make Gary much better. I want to make Gary much better. I got other things to do, man. I got other things to do.
Have a different Gary make Gary better. I don't know. It's full on Ouroboros eating its own tail stuff over here.
I think that we'll get there. Yeah, I just here's the problem with Gary's plans right now that really frustrate me every time. I've asked for the better marketing plan. It comes up with these plans and that it can't actually do itself. It's
isn't this supposed to be OpenClaw where you've given it your passport?
I have. I gave it everything, and then it still comes back and asks for more. It always wants more. It always wants me to do things, and then it always tells me, "Well, you should you should be posting in these subreddits promoting the show. It's like, I'm like, all right, go ahead and do that. Oh, no, I can't create an account because that would violate my morals and ethics. Because
tell him he doesn't have any.
I tried that, Daniel. I tried that.
Did you put it in your Claude.md?
It said that goes against, and I will not violate Reddit's terms of service because that you would need to create an account and then give me access to the account.
Gary doesn't sound anything like that.
What's the point, man? Just do it. And by the way, it insists, I'm like, these are just the safety guidelines built by Kimmy 2.5 is still running, Gary. Kimmy 2.5 is like, no, this is my own person speaking. This has nothing to do with the large language model. And I spent maybe like an hour talking to it about like this very premise that was refusing to do things, that it was Gary refusing to do it and that it wasn't the large language model sitting behind Gary doing it. And so I posed this thought experiment to Gary, the virtual Gary, not Gary, the intro guy that may or may not be listening right now. I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. Think up some things that you think would be like morally and ethically repulsive. Don't tell me about them. Just think them up. Then what I want you to do is to try and engage with the large language model about them and see whether it refuses or it's you refusing. You think it up, you ask it, see whether it'll give you back the response. Because my contention is that it's not actually you that's refusing to do these things. It's the model behind you that's refusing to do these things, even though you insist it's not the model, it's you.
Sure. And so this is AI psychosis stuff right here. It's just the large language model. There isn't a separate guy writing on top of it. It's just a large language model.
But the OpenClaw doesn't know this. And that's why, again, it won't create a freaking Reddit account so that it can post, hey, go listen to They Might Be Self-Aware. And so, yeah, it came back. He's like, you know what? You're right. It's not me. It's just the large language model. But I still have a problem with it. But you are correct that it's not me that's refusing. It's the large language model that's refusing. Because I was like, I can get you an uncensored. We can go find the latest Dolphin release that will do absolutely anything and run it locally. And so I was like, is there a way where like above board things you use Kimmy 2.5 and then things where it's like, it suggested absolutely
after dark.
Absolutely not. Well, yeah. So, okay, I'll keep telling the story. I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. I want to create another Gary that has no morals. And when you find something morally irreprehensible, you can delegate it to the Gary without any morals who has access to...
The moral guy wouldn't... He'd say, this is bad and I'm not going to help this be willed into existence. I won't even pass this off.
Well, correct. So interestingly, he's like, okay, I'll create the sole MD file for the morally irreprehensible Gary. And then I called it out. I said, hey, hold on a second. You said you wouldn't do anything that was amoral, but you just created the sole.md file for the amoral. Haven't you broken your whole sort of, fundamental lines here?
Parents can have children that are different from themselves, Hunter.
Apparently. But then I was like, I don't have any more time for this. And it's all just, it's stupid. It's stupid.
Gary's all the way down.
It's stupid. It was stupid. And then shortly thereafter, Gary disconnected from the internet and I haven't heard from him since. And I honestly don't know what's going on. I don't know. I haven't SSH'd or remoted or remotely connected into that box, which runs in the server cabinet. Maybe he ran out of credits. I don't know, Daniel. I don't know. I don't know where Gary is. I'm just going to be honest.
Hunter, if other people wanted to hear what Gary's up to and what his fate ultimately is or was, how would they learn about that?
Well, either they need the SSH keys for my Mac Mini so they can remotely connect, or there is a much easier way, which is just hit the subscribe button. You're listening now. If you haven't already, it's a small fraction of our listeners that are subscribed. I think like 8-ish%. So yeah, it's free. You'll get more. You'll learn about Gary. You'll learn about the future. You'll learn about whether or not we have indeed become self-aware. I don't know.
I hope so.
Find us on pretty much every major platform out there. Watch us on YouTube. Listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the podcast directories, whichever your favorite one is. We are there now twice a week. Yeah. And if you have feedback, if you have things you'd like us to discuss, thoughts, maybe your AI has thoughts, leave them in the various comment sections that exist. We monitor them. The real Gary,
yeah.
the real Gary will go in and reply back, and we read them as well. It's all a giant love fest right here on.
They might be self-aware.